All right, so get this lifetime web hosting for a one-time fee. Ever heard of that?
Really?
Yeah, this company HyperHost. They're making some pretty wild claims.
Hmm. Lifetime web hosting sounds a little too good to be true, right?
Right. That's why we're doing a deep dive today. We got to figure out what's really going on.
Okay, so we're talking web hosting, which is essential for anyone with a website or really any online presence at all.
Exactly. Websites, email, you name it. It all relies on web hosting.
Yeah. And most people pay a monthly or yearly fee for that service.
Right. But HyperHost says you pay once and you're set for life.
That's a pretty bold claim. I'm curious to see how they back that up.
Me too. So besides the lifetime thing, they also boast about unlimited websites, super fast servers, all this for a price that seems unbelievably low.
Okay, I see why you're intrigued. It's definitely an attention-grabbing offer. Who wouldn't want to save money on hosting, especially if it's reliable and high quality?
Exactly. And they really play up that angle in their marketing.
Yeah.
I went through their website and they've got this countdown timer ticking away.
Yeah.
You're going to miss out on the deal of the century if you don't act fast.
Ah, the old scarcity tactic. A classic marketing ploy.
Yeah. And they even have this comparison table where they pit themselves against these big-name hosting companies like GoDaddy, Bluehost, HostGator. And, of course, HyperHost comes out looking way cheaper and way better.
Hmm. Those comparisons can be tricky. We'll need to take a closer look at what's actually being compared. Are they comparing apples to apples, or are they leaving some important details out?
Yeah, good point. So let's break down how HyperHost actually works. They make it sound super simple. 3 steps, and you're good to go.
Okay, let's hear it.
So first you log in, obviously. Then you add your domain names, whether it's one or a bunch of them. And then you choose your platform.
Hmm.
They specifically mention WordPress, which makes sense since it's so popular. And that's it. They say your site is up and running.
They're really pushing the ease of use angle.
Oh, yeah. They talk about one-click installations and intuitive interface, all that.
Well, that's definitely appealing, especially for people who aren't super tech savvy.
Right. And focusing on WordPress is smart, too. It powers like a third of all websites out there.
Yeah, but let's not forget that a simple setup doesn't guarantee a smooth ride down the road. There's a lot more to hosting than just getting a website online.
Totally.
Yeah.
So how do their claims about super fast servers and 100% uptime fit into all this?
Yeah, super fast sounds impressive. But what kind of server technology are they using? Are we talking shared hosting, where your website is sharing resources with a bunch of other sites on the same server?
So maybe not so super fast after all.
It depends on how many sites are sharing those resources and how powerful the server is.
Right. And what about the 100% uptime guarantee? Is that even realistic?
Honestly, 100% uptime is pretty much impossible. Every server needs maintenance sometimes,
Yeah.
and there can always be unexpected issues.
So it's more about how quickly those issues are resolved.
Exactly. A good hosting provider will have systems in place to minimize downtime and get things back up and running ASAP.
So we're not just looking at the initial setup, but the long-term reliability of the hosting service.
Exactly. And speaking of reliability, what about security? HyperHost mentions 100% SSL encryption for safe and secure data.
Which is essential these days, right?
Absolutely. SSL encryption protects sensitive information that's transmitted through your website, like credit card numbers or login details.
So it's like a basic security measure.
It is, but we need to look deeper. What other security measures are they taking? Are they proactive about malware protection and software updates, that kind of thing?
Right, because a secure website is crucial for everyone involved.
Absolutely. So it seems like there's a lot more to this lifetime hosting offer than meets the eye.
Definitely. We need to dig deeper and see if HyperHost can actually walk the walk, or if it's all smoke and mirrors.
Agreed. Let's start by taking a closer look at their pricing and those bold claims they're making.
Sounds like a plan. So we were talking about HyperHost's pricing and how they compare themselves to the big guys.
Right, and that's definitely something we need to scrutinize. Those price comparisons can be misleading.
Okay, so they claim to be significantly cheaper than GoDaddy, Bluehost, HostGator, all those household names.
Yeah, and they even provide this handy little table highlighting the supposed savings.
Right, it's like, look how much money you'll save with HyperHost.
But are they really comparing apples to apples? Are they factoring in things like renewal fees, which can add up over time with those other companies?
So the lifetime price might not tell the whole story.
Exactly. We need to look beyond the initial sticker price and understand the long-term cost implications.
Right, because what seems like a great deal up front could end up costing you more down the road.
Exactly. And we also need to consider what features are included in each plan. Those big hosting companies often offer a suite of additional services, email hosting marketing tools, website builders, things like that.
So it's not just about the hosting itself, but the whole package.
Right. Does HyperHost offer include comparable features, or are we looking at a stripped-down, bare-bones package?
Okay, so we got to dig into the details and see what's actually included.
Exactly. Now, speaking of features, HyperHost does mention a whole bunch of bonuses bundled with their offer.
Yeah, like they kind of threw a lot at us.
They did. They mentioned software for webinars, affiliate marketing, even music services. They're even throwing in ready-made Amazon product review websites for a limited time.
Wow, it's like they're trying to sweeten the deal with all these extras.
That's exactly what they're doing. It's a classic marketing tactic called bundling.
Bundling.
Yeah, it's designed to overwhelm you with value, make the offer seem irresistible.
Ah, I see. So you get caught up in all the free stuff and forget to scrutinize the core offering.
Exactly. You have to ask yourself, are these bonuses actually valuable to me? Will I actually use them? Or are they just clutter that adds complexity to my online presence?
Right, because a bunch of unused tools and services isn't going to help you build a successful website.
Exactly. So while those bonuses might sound tempting, it's important to focus on what matters most: the performance reliability and security of the hosting service itself.
Okay, so don't get distracted by the shiny objects.
Yeah.
Focus on the core offering.
Precisely. And speaking of the core offering, we need to take a closer look at HyperHost's claims about their servers and their infrastructure.
Right, they boast about unlimited bandwidth and high-speed servers, but what does that actually mean in practice?
Yeah, marketing language can be vague and misleading. We need to get into the technical details and understand what they're really offering.
Okay, so where do we start?
Well, one thing to consider is the type of servers they're using. Are they using shared hosting where multiple websites are hosted on the same server? Or are they offering something more robust like VPS or dedicated servers?
What's the difference?
Shared hosting is the cheapest option, but it means your website is sharing resources with other websites on the same server.
Ah, so if one of those websites gets a surge in traffic, it could slow down your website too.
Exactly. VPS and dedicated servers offer more resources and better performance, but they're also more expensive.
So it's a trade-off between cost and performance.
Right. And we also need to look into their security measures. They mention SSL encryption, which is good. But what other steps are they taking to protect their servers and their customers' websites from hackers and malware?
So it's not just about protecting the data that's transmitted through the website, but the website itself.
Exactly. A good hosting provider will have multiple layers of security in place to keep their systems and their customers' data safe.
So we need to dig deeper and see what HyperHost is doing in terms of security.
Agreed. And another important factor is customer support. What happens if something goes wrong with your website or your hosting account? Do they have a responsive support team that can help you troubleshoot the problem?
That's a good point, because things can and do go wrong with websites.
They do. And when that happens, you want to know that you can rely on your hosting provider to help you get things back up and running quickly.
So how do we find out about HyperHost's customer support?
Well, their website might have some information about their support options, but the best way to get a real sense of their customer service is to look for reviews from other users.
So go back to those independent review sites.
Exactly. Look for comments about how responsive their support team is, how helpful they are, and how quickly they resolve issues.
Because good customer support can make a huge difference, especially if you're not a tech expert yourself.
Absolutely. So it seems like there's a lot to consider when evaluating a hosting provider like HyperHost.
Definitely. It's not just about the price or the flashy marketing. It's about understanding the technical details, the security measures, the customer support, and all the other factors that contribute to a reliable and secure hosting experience.
Exactly. We need to weigh all those factors carefully before making a decision.
Right, because choosing the wrong hosting provider can have a big impact on your website and your online presence.
Absolutely. So let's keep digging into HyperHost and see what else we can uncover.
All right, so we've spent a lot of time talking about the ins and outs of HyperHost. What are the key takeaways? What should our listeners be thinking about if they're considering this whole lifetime hosting thing?
Well, the first thing is don't rush into it.
Easy to say.
I know, but seriously, that countdown timer and all the hype, it's designed to make you feel like you have to act now or you'll miss out.
Right, FOMO, fear of missing out.
Exactly. But taking your time and doing your research is crucial, especially when it comes to something as important as web hosting.
So what kind of research are we talking about?
Well, we talked a lot about user reviews. Those can be really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, getting the perspective of people who have actually used HyperHost.
Exactly. Look for patterns in the reviews, both positive and negative. Are people consistently praising certain aspects of the service, or are there a lot of complaints about specific issues?
Like slow loading times or poor customer support?
Right. Those patterns can give you a much better sense of what to expect than the marketing materials ever will.
Okay, so user reviews are a must. What else?
Comparison shopping is always a good idea.
Right. See how HyperHost stacks up against those established hosting companies?
Exactly. Look at the features, the pricing, the server technology, the security measures, all of that.
So it's about understanding the trade-offs. What are you giving up by going with the cheaper option?
Exactly. Because sometimes that super low price comes with compromises that might not be worth it in the long run.
Right, like maybe their customer support isn't as good or their servers aren't as reliable.
Exactly. So you really have to weigh your priorities. What's most important to you? Price, performance, reliability, security.
And maybe try to find a balance between all of those things.
Right. And another thing you can do is contact HyperHost directly. Ask them about their service, their infrastructure, their security measures.
So kind of get a feel for how they operate.
Exactly. See if they're transparent and responsive, if they're willing to answer your questions honestly.
Okay, so research comparison shopping, talking to the company directly. What else?
Well, if after all that, you're still feeling good about HyperHost, maybe start small.
Don't go all in right away.
Right. Maybe try hosting a small personal website with them first before you move your business website or anything mission critical.
So kind of a test run.
Exactly. See how it goes for a few months. Monitor their uptime, their performance, their customer support.
And if everything checks out, then maybe consider expanding your use of their services.
Right. But the key is to be cautious and to have a backup plan, just in case things don't go as smoothly as you hoped.
Right. Because even if HyperHost is legitimate today, there's no guarantee that they'll be around forever or that their service will stay the same.
Exactly. The online world is constantly changing. Companies come and go, technologies evolve.
So you got to be adaptable and willing to adjust your strategy as needed.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And always remember, knowledge is power. The more informed you are about web hosting and all the other aspects of the online world, the better equipped you'll be to make smart decisions that protect your interests.
This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive. I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about.
I hope so. Because at the end of the day, it's all about making informed choices that align with your goals and values.
Well said. And on that note, we'll wrap up this episode of the deep dive until next time. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and stay informed.